Aloha and welcome to Issues That Matter. This is a show sponsored by the Anthropology program at Hawaii Pacific University. I'm Lynette Cruz, I'm your host. I have two exciting guests, actually. I'm sure you're all going to be happy to meet them as well. To my right is Bumpy Kanahele.
Aloha.
And he is the head of state for the nation of Hawaii. And to his right is Steve Tayama, who is advisor, national security advisor, actually. Yeah. And I'm happy to have them here. We're going to be discussing today some of the impacts of the apology law and where that leads us. You know, if we just kind of look at what has been happening in Hawaii today, we're going to get into a little bit more detail about what the future holds for Hawaiians and for all of us in Hawaii. But I'll let Bumpy start. You can introduce yourself, and Steve, you can introduce yourself as well when it's your turn. But right now, kind of give the audience a sense of what it is that we're going to be talking about tonight. I did, but you could probably do it better.
Hi, aloha. My name is Bumpy Kanahele. I'm the head of state of the nation of Hawaii, and glad to be here. Thanks, Lynette. Basically, what's going on is we came up with this, the impact of the apology law. We're going to talk a little on the apology law right now, how it's become federal law. You know, a lot of people had actually looked at the apology law as a symbolic gesture, and it's actually a federal law that has been very, very effective in a lot of court cases, a lot of issues in Hawaii. And we're just learning about that. A lot of people are just learning about the apology law right now because it was really, really mistaken to be just that, an apology to Native Hawaiians. There's a much larger impact than we realize, and we'll be talking more about that.
Great.
So anyway, most of us know what happened in 1893, the overthrow, and then as time went by, a lot of issues concerning Hawaiians came about, and eventually in 1992, I believe the apology law was being talked about in Congress, but it wasn't until 1993 finally the United States Congress and eventually the President of the United States at that time, President Clinton, signed the law into effect. Now, at that time, the nation of Hawaii was very, very on this law. Like I said earlier, a lot of people took for granted that it was just a symbolic gesture, but we knew that there was more meat to it than most people knew. During that time, in 1993, July, the governor at that time was Governor Waihe'e, and he set up and appointed 21 members to form the Hawaiian Sovereignty Advisory Commission, which I was a part of. And so in that commission, we had to split up, create committees, and eventually what happened was I became the chairperson for a committee called Visioning Beyond Legislative Mandate, and myself as the chairperson, and Pokala Inui, we knew at that time was Hayden Burgess, was the vice chair. And the members were uncomfortable with using the term International Law Committee, and that's why we came up with the Visioning Beyond Legislative Mandate, and I called it the Above the Law Committee, because we would have to go out above city and state law and federal law and look for opinions or guidance from the international arena on what we could do with this law. And Poka brought in Russell Barsh, who spoke on self-determination and self-governance, and I brought in Professor Boyle from the University of Illinois, who practices international law, and he gave his opinion though on the law, and that opinion was given at the end of the year, I believe in December, at the Mabel Smythe Auditorium. And what he said was like mind-blowing. now that the United States have finally admitted to the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian people, the native Hawaiian people can now proclaim the restoration of their independence. And that blew a lot of people away that evening. For most, it was like hard to believe. For us, it was like, okay, now what's the next step? And so that is when the nation actually set its root in the ground to eventually form the nation of Hawaii. Right after the apology was, the opinion by Francis Boyle was given, I actually I left the commission. I resigned. It was on the front page that I resigned. In fact, the governor called me and said, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, I just found out you guys are illegal, really illegal." And so that started the ball rolling. I think it had a big kind of like it broadened everybody's minds as to what this really meant. See, you got this guy talking about nationhood and this and that, and it just, one thing led to another. So I just wanted to kind of give a small kind of background on that, because I was involved in that. It's not like I read about it. I was, I kind of like to say this all the time, that it's kind of like, my background is more on experience than reading books. And it's kind of like how the woman, when she gives birth, she can tell you how it feels. The man can only read the book about how it might feel. And that's where I'm coming from. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, and kind of happy to be here and just sharing some of the stuff that we have in store.
Hey, good metaphor. It's kind of like giving birth to the nation, right?
Yeah.
So going through those pains, and if you're not there, then the best you can do is to read about it. But my sense is that what you're talking about is giving everybody an opportunity to help give birth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Right on. Good on.
Good. Yeah. Okay, Steve. Little bit background about who you are, and maybe a little bit more explanation on some of these issues we're going to talk about today.
Oh, well, I started in the movement. The first time I heard about Hawaiian issues was in 1962, when I took Hawaiian Studies at Farrington High School. And then went into the Air Force in 1964, went through the turmoil of the civil rights movement, black civil rights movement, the Vietnam anti-war movement, and I was in the service at the time in the Bay Area, where that was a hotbed of that kind of action. Then in 1970, I was living in Kalama Valley, and there was an eviction there, which happened to be the second time I got evicted by Bishop Estate. The first time was when I was 10 years old in Pawa. And so that kind of started me thinking about Hawaiians and what's happening to them. So I've been around the movement, Waukeleo the burial issue in Honokahua, stuff's all over the islands. And then I joined with Bumpy about 15 years ago. Moved from the beach where I was homeless, had organized with Skippy Iwane a group called Free Association, which is a sovereignty group made up of homeless Hawaiians. And when I heard that Bump was occupying land, which I thought was the key to Hawaiian rights. If you have no land, you have nothing. So I immediately came over, our group came over, joined up with him, and when we moved from the beach to Mauka, where we are now, I stayed, and I've been with the group ever since, and here I am now.
Good.
Right on, bro.
Anything else you might want to share about the issues we're going to be talking about, like the apology bill? What's your take on that?
Well, the apology is astounding for the United States to admit these horrendous crimes, violations of their constitutional law, Hawaiian Kingdom law, international laws and conventions that are in place now, and some were back then. And these violations don't have a statute of limitations to them because they're so great. And so when that happened, we were jumping up and down. because we knew that the Americans had admitted, and Francis Boyle came over and said, we have the right to restore whatever we want. Then the Supreme Court's decision to acknowledge the apology has opened the door for us to unify. I think what Bump is going to get to through this whole thing is now we have a chance to, and a responsibility to, unify ourselves, stop this quibbling and grumbling among each other, and really give the Hawaiian people and their supporters a chance to understand what all their options are, what they really are. So you can't really have self-determination without an informed decision. You have to know what you're determining.
Right.
Who's determining? You know, what all the options and the benefits of those options are. And this is what Bumpy is trying to work on right now.
So, Bumpy, is it your sense that the apology bill kind of opened the door?
Yeah.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, it not only opened the door, it actually got a lot of Hawaiians, organizations, nations, kingdoms, groups, even more focused on what they believe was the right thing to apply to Hawaiian sovereignty. And but you know, apology law has 37 whereas clauses. Every whereas clause is, well, as Francis puts it, it's the findings of fact and law by U.S. Congress. So it's not, you know, it's not just your ordinary resolution. I mean, you know, back in the anti-annexation by our kupuna, by our ancestors, the Ku'e petition, you know, they did it by a joint resolution. They did the New Lands Resolution. And for me, if it wasn't for our kupuna at that time to come up with, you know, over 30,000, 38,000 signatures to stop the Treaty of Annexation, we might have actually lost everything then. But what they did was so historical that it preserved our sovereignty over our national lands for us today. And 1993 was just the reversal of what happened. They took it away by resolution, joint resolution in 1898, and they gave it back to us in 1993. And so the impact of the apology law has a lot of tentacles. It just has so much impact of really what's going on. This means that apology law, when it first came out, that made the state of Hawaii illegal. That made the United States of America in Hawaii illegal. City and county illegal. And so that was then, back in 1993. Now I'm going to move into the next step, which was what solidified and affirmed all of that was the Supreme Court injunction that came out January 31st, 2008. Supreme Court injunction was a case that was like 13 years in the making. Back in 1995, OHA and a handful of Hawaiians from Maui, from Molokai, from Oahu sued the state of Hawaii for a case that they had in Lahaina, Leali'i lands and ceded lands. And so they put together, you know, a lawsuit that said, you know, they shouldn't be touching the lands until Native Hawaiian claims are settled. And so Leali'i was the first item in this case. Then they added the ceded lands, which was the second thing, which was everything actually, to this court injunction. Well, not the court injunction, but the court case back in 1995. Of course, the circuit court shot it down in 2003, which meant we lost. And then finally, in January 31st of this year, 2008, Supreme Court of Hawaii came in and said, no way. The apology law gives rise to what was done back in 2003 by the circuit court. And you know, it was in favor of the Native Hawaiian people. And specifically, it states that the state of Hawaii cannot sell exchange or transfer ceded lands until Native Hawaiian claims are settled, or the Native Hawaiian claims are resolved. And resolved, they're also added in there, resolved through a political process. And so when I heard that, political process, the first thought was, oh my God, the Akaka bill, the signing of the Kauinoa list. And but then in my mind, I was thinking, geez, that's not a political process, you know, because the community wasn't informed, and it goes to the representatives, and you know, and so forth. But it wasn't a political process. It was just, to me, it was a sign-up thing to build a nation. And Akaka bill was already, you know, it's like a preemptive strike. They came in and they wanted to do it right from the get-go. Of course, with you know, no real input from the Native Hawaiian community. So yeah, the Supreme Court injunction of January 31st, 2008 actually made the apology law a federal law and a force of law in Hawaii. So that's big stuff. So from 1993 to finally this year, you know, we've never had a affirmative strength like this. It's never happened before. And all of a sudden, you know, the Hawaii State Supreme Court comes in and says, no way, you guys got to stop until Native Hawaiian claims are resolved, period.
In a sense, they kind of trying to clean up their own stuff. I mean, it's kind of like we're all bystanders and we're watching this stuff play out.
Yeah. Well, you know, and Professor Boyle, and we went back and forth right the next day, January 31st, or the 1st of February. And we were going back and forth on what he thought about the whole thing. He said, Bump, the Supreme Court of Hawaii has done it for you folks. They've clouded all the lands, all the titles in Hawaii, the land titles. And it didn't dawn on me how the impact, you know, just started to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and so, you know, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of action that's going on. People are going back to the Kuleana lands. They're lined up in court, filing claims for Kuleana lands, and it's really a scary situation if you understand what I'm saying. So I would, if you're a landowner of any kind, big lands, small lands, what have you, I would really look into this Supreme Court injunction, because it does make titles, land titles in Hawaii invalid. I know a escrow company that had received some TMKs to do a search on. And of course the search was ceded land searches. And their underwriter just came right out and said, we ain't touching this because of this injunction. So that just gives you an idea as to the impact of the apology law, because this is what is the foundation of the Supreme Court of Hawaii. They use that like it's the Bible. And so getting back to land titles, and if, you know, check it out. I mean, check out what your land, what kind of title you really have. And, you know, again, getting back to what Professor Boyle was saying, he said, Bumpy, they're going to have to deal with the Native Hawaiians, whether they like it or not. And we're starting to see that. It's not just because of the economy and inflation and cost of living. It has a lot to do with the lands in Hawaii, because that is how economics, that our lands and our natural resources in Hawaii, that is the very foundation of the state and everything that runs in Hawaii. It's the lands. And so, you know, we almost don't have to do too much right now, because we've won already, and we got to figure out how to get together, like Steve was talking about, and we'll get into that part of it.
It's kind of interesting for me, because I think people, lots and lots of people, know that there is a problem with land titles. Lots of people, and nobody really knew what to do with it. And then comes the Supreme Court injunction, and now we all know somebody got to do something. Because, well, we don't have to do anything, right? Because we didn't put that cloud over there. Right. We just got to wait for it to play itself out. And so, in a sense, this might be a good time for rallying people to get ready, right? Okay, so what happened after that Supreme Court injunction?
Well, then I'm not quite sure what date it was, but the Attorney General, Mark Bennett, appealed the Supreme Court decision or the injunction to the U.S. Supreme Court. And take a look at these documents. I mean, read it for yourself. You'll come up with your own conclusion. You can find it on my website, bumpykanahele.com. The Supreme Court injunction is there, and also the AG's appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And basically, it's as the Attorney General and the state of Hawaii puts their brief, or as they're talking to the U.S. Supreme Court, they're admitting to all the things that we've been saying all these years. That they won't have legs to stand on. The lands that they own are now in jeopardy. The sovereignty of their existence is in jeopardy. And they're blaming the state of the Hawaii State Supreme Court right now in this language that the state of Hawaii Supreme Court is holding them hostage.
So are you saying that the state Supreme Court is the state?
Right.
So the state is appealing the state's decision to a higher court because they feel like they're being held hostage by themselves.
Yeah. Well, it's a
branch of themselves.
Yeah, it's a three-branch system. So, and they're supposed to be independent, and I think we've seen the independent workings of a three-branch system happening right now, because it's the executive branch that's going after what just happened. They're going after the Hawaii State Supreme Court. The Hawaii State Supreme Court, the judicial branch, is saying, no way. And if you guys are going to do anything against these Hawaiians, you got to do it outside of Hawaii.
Because they're still following the law.
Yeah, they're just following the law.
Yeah.
And I commend you, Supreme Court justices, for bringing the truth finally to the forefront. It's such a devastating court case that it's actually, to me, it's in the same realm as national disaster or natural disaster, should I say?
That too.
But yeah, if I was the governor, I would say that this is a natural disaster. I mean, it's something that people should be forewarned about, because what will happen is those court cases will somehow have to come about. Now, the people that's buying lands and continue to sell and buy lands today, you watch what you're buying. Question. Check with your underwriters. Check with your title companies, the brokers. These guys should be stopping, because not because of just the Hawaiian issues, but because of the civil suits, the liabilities behind it. We're talking about economic chaos right now. And we're already having hard times with the economy as it is. So, yeah, the AG's appeal was something, because we're all going like, wow, they're appealing a federal law now. Wonder how that's going to happen. So which moves us into, okay, what do we do now? With the apology law out there, the Supreme Court decision, and now the Attorney General is going to the U.S. Supreme Court and saying, well, man, you got to help us out. We can't turn to anybody else. Any type of political legislation or any type of court decisions will be trumped by this injunction. That's the language that your Attorney General of the state of Hawaii is using.
That argument is to appeal to the state sovereignty, right? Or to uphold the state sovereignty.
Yeah, the question was interesting. If I can, sorry about not being prepared, but I am so happy to be here. The question here is whether the symbolic resolution strips Hawaii of its sovereign authority to sell, exchange, or transfer 1.2 million acres of state land 29% of the total land area of the state and almost all the land owned by the state, unless and until it reaches a political settlement with Native Hawaiians about the status of that land. So that's the question. That's the question being presented to the U.S. Supreme Court.
There's another issue right in that statement. The Attorney General is saying 1.2 million acres. The apology says 1.8 million acres.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to those hundreds of thousands of acres? Where is it? Who has it? Do they know what the acreage really is? All we know is that those lands were taken illegally. That's what they have admitted to. So, every time you go there, you find some kind of what?
We shrink down now.
Yeah, the thing's shrinking again. So, this Attorney General, he works for OHA, defends them in the attacks on OHA. So he comes off as a champion of Hawaiian people's rights, and yet when the real deal comes out, when the Hawaii State Supreme Court, the highest law of the state, comes out and says the apology bill is law, he jumps right and he goes, well, hey, wait a minute now, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's misinterpreted.
So, I can't really, I have to question his sincerity about his real intentions. Why am I asking this question and not him? Where did he come to 1.2 from 1.8?
Yeah, and we've been so used to seeing changes like that. From January to now, it went from 1.8 to 1.2. I mean, we can go on and on, just criticizing the state, criticizing OHA or any of our trusts and all that. The bottom line is now the Native Hawaiian people have a choice to get it together, to unify, and make a difference with all these laws and all these rights behind us. And I'm sharing with you about the validity of your land title, not to put you in a panic, but to educate you, because a lot of people out there are in denial about what's going on. And so, sorry about bringing it down this way, but I tell you, this is real nice. We're being good. We're being very, very upfront, because in order for Hawaiians to have their sovereignty once again, we're going to need the help of everybody. We're going to need to work together with the non-Hawaiian, with developers, with all the things that tore our nation apart, our government that we've had 100 years ago. And so, and to have that, I would say, to have that mana'o coming out, it's unlike some of the stuff that's going on right now. There's so much racial slurs and discrimination now going against the Hawaiian people because of these things, that us as Hawaiians, we got to pull back from those things. Don't even get involved with it, but put your attention towards something that's going to bring us together. And that's the next thing I want to go into and talk about, which would be the creation of a Hawaiian Constitutional Convention. Not to be confused or mixed up with what the state is doing and planning in 1909 or 2009, but a Hawaiian Constitutional Convention. And I've talked to some attorneys, and a constitutional convention is a political process, and we need to understand what that is, and not talk about governing entity, building some kind of a nation. You can do that with the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and you can have all these governing entities that you want. But a constitutional convention where we can go into and convene into session to actually bring up all the issues that we've had over 120, 130 years now. It's got to be done under an umbrella that can protect us from being manipulated, protect us from being threatened, intimidated. And so I've been working hard on Maui. We've had like about 15 meetings, myself, Wilike, Kahe'ali'i, his brother Kamauno, and Nakupuna o Maui. And we've come up with a plan that has started on Maui. It started Tuesday night, where it's a declaration and petition in support of a Hawaiian Constitutional Convention. And the good thing about that petition is that it kind of looks like our our Ku'e petition that our Kupuna had. And that one they took it away. But they preserved the opportunity for us to do this today. This petition is in support of a Hawaiian Constitutional Convention, which basically gives us the go-ahead, the authority, the choice of the type of government we want. We need a free, fair, and impartial process. And I believe that this convention is a long time coming. I believe that people are ready. I've talked to people. In fact, we had, so far we had about, just that night alone, we had 40-something people, and almost 100 sheets went out. They're all numbered. You have your name, you print your name on the top line, you sign your name on the bottom line. The island, the district on that island that you come from, your phone number and your age, and that's it. So it's very simple. Maybe.
Well, you have 4 whereas clauses. Would you mind at least reading them so people know what it is, what this petition consists of?
Okay. So it's Declaration and Petition of the Hawaiian Constitutional Convention, 2008. Whereas the fear of losing grants and entitlements for not supporting government programs or legislation is the biggest threat and obstacle facing the Native Hawaiian people to freely determine the form of government of their choosing. Whereas the Native Hawaiian people recognize that a Hawaiian Constitutional Convention is a political process that ensures their political, economic, social, and cultural, social and educational advancement, their just treatment as they're going through this process, and protection against abuses like the first whereas clause. Whereas the Native Hawaiian people will need a substantial period of time in which they can engage freely and without fear of threat or intimidation in the processes of educating themselves. They need the freedom to publicly debate amongst themselves the various options of self-governance available to them. And it is also imperative that they have meaningful access to mainstream news media in Hawaii. We want to be real transparent about this and just do it. Not too much action in promoting anything, but just do it. Whereas the Hawaiian Constitutional Convention will automatically protect and preserve the sovereignty of the Native Hawaiian people over the national and ancestral lands. So let it be known to all peoples, governments, financial institutions, multinational corporations, and affiliated entities throughout the world that the Native Hawaiian people proclaim their right of self-determination in accordance with Article 1, Section 2 of the United Nations Charter, as well as the recent Hawaii State Supreme Court injunction on January 31st, 2008. Be it resolved that we, the undersigned Native Hawaiians and non-Native Hawaiian people, hereby declare the Hawaiian Constitutional Convention in session on this 27th day of May 2008. And this was done at the Lahaina Civic Center, 8 p.m. So the Hawaiian Constitutional Convention in session basically means what we're in session to do is get the petition signed. There's no age limit on who can sign because we believe, and the Kupuna on Maui believe that they're the future. And if you have children that can't write yet, the mamas can sign for them. And so we need to, I believe we need to get involved. We need to learn more about the things that we talked about earlier, just to get the gist of everything, because we're right in every sense of the word. And as we move along I wouldn't get into it about which form of government we want until we get into the convention. Because for me, like, people talk to me about, what about this, what about that law, what about this organization, what about this constitution? I'm going, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time with that. I'm just focusing on getting people to support this CONCON, this Constitutional Convention. That's the main purpose. Because when everything is said and done, and when the people finally say, let's do it already, then we'll go into things like each island apportion their island, get ready for placing their delegates or choosing or electing their delegates to represent their districts, and from there to represent their islands, and then convene into a constitutional convention. Very simple. I mean, I was kind of happy that night we had some young Opio that don't come out. And he said, Uncle, I left meetings because they're always fighting and grumbling in the meetings. And but this, I can do this. I take copies with me because I get plenty of people that would like to, to do this. We can sign. I mean, we can get plenty of people to sign. And I was like really happy because you don't see the young bloods coming out like that and showing their support. And I think, what we've done is just do something real natural and progressive, was to just create something so that everybody could get involved. So that's where we're at. I really think that this is gonna just attract a lot of people that we never thought would be involved. I'm talking to all kind of families, and they're like, what can I get? Can you send me that online? And you know what? We're keeping it offline. We don't want it to get carried away. We have each petition numbered, and it's going to count, because we're going to use this in a very near future, like how all Kupuna used their petition against annexation. And we'll let the people decide when and where and how we're going to do it. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to focus on the will of the people all the time. It's the will of the people that wants to do this. Well, that's the will of the people. Let's do it. It's not, even though I'm the head of state of the nation of Hawaii, and Steve's position as well with the nation. The nation is just one support group behind this, and a major one, because we're working closely with Nakupuna o Maui that started it already. They started the ball rolling. We get people like Willie K and entertainers like that involved. Uncle Richard Hopi is also on the Kupuna Council. In fact, my wife's cousin, Judge Boy Kaumoku, and that's only on Maui. And so it started to snowball right now. And I believe it's something that it's not threatening, it's not a threat to anybody's lifestyle, their living, putting food on their table, going to work and stuff. You still can participate.
It's scheduled for sometime this year. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, the convention, as far as convening, no. But the session has already started. The session is the signing of the petition. See, again, like Willie, that night, Tuesday night, he go, but we need a notary. And then he was thinking, and he said, you know what? Shoes. Kupuna never had notary when they had the or the annexation petition. I said, no, yeah. He started laughing. I said, you know, Willie, we define what we saying. Too many times we look in Webster or looking at all these dictionaries for find out what that means. No, we determine right from the get-go and leave it as such. When I say Native Hawaiian, my definition is Kanaka Maoli, because our kupuna in the annexation petition use Native Hawaiian or Native or Kanaka Hawaii Maoli. That's what they use, the language. So I'm not afraid to use Native Hawaiian, being that our mindset has been so geared in Western mentality that we forget that our kupuna had definitions all lined up for us already. So I wouldn't get hung up too much on that kind of stuff, that kind of issues. We get more pressing issues that we got to take care of in the convention. But so again, you know, we started off with apology law, and you know, kind of like what happened there. The affirmative injunction by the Supreme Court, Hawaii Supreme Court decision, and some of the things that the AG, basically the AG telling us all the stuff we always knew as to why they need the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn whatever they're going, you know, he's thinking that they might do. And then finally, you know, what we're going to do after those three things is, you know, a declaration and a signing of this petition. If you need more information, you can contact me at 259-6309 or
259-0095.
Uncle Steve. To get more information, you can find a lot of these documents, except for the petition, on my website, bumpykanahele.com. Go check it out, because a lot of people cannot get the stuff. I mean, you can't just talk to somebody about the decision. When you get to looking through 94 pages of the Supreme Court decision and 29 pages or whatever of the AG's brief, you know, you just look at them and you go, oh man, I always felt this way. You know, it's like, so I think this is a good thing. Hopefully, you know, we attract a lot of people that, you know, they're good at it. They're good at this. They're good at putting things like this together. I seen an email on Puka. Puka, I cannot be there, but I really like what you're in right down. I think that's you know, that's good to. That's the kind of rules that we should have. I don't know if rules is the word, but you know, that is real, Mike Abraham.
Oh, for having a talk story.
Yeah.
That's good, because I was just going to tell you, this is kind of like a talk story because nothing's decided yet. Sure. And so what you have outlined so far is a process that seems to be growing itself.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting.
Since the passage of the apology bill about 15 years ago, a number of groups have formed. So you have 5 or 6 kingdoms, you know, the nation of Hawaii, you have the Akaka bill. I think there's a lot of confusion, anger, some apathy, like people just going, no can, we don't know what's going on. I'm like, hear about them already. We need to make clear that we're pushing a process for Hawaiians to educate themselves about all the options that are available to them. I can think of about 11, besides the Akaka bill and independence even. And so this is pushing a process, not a form of government. Once the thing gets into session, the CONCON, then I'm going to be pushing a form of government real hard.
Yeah, me too.
Okay? But until we get there, we're just pushing this open, free process so Hawaiians have a chance to make an informed and educated choice about all their options. And like I said, there are more than 10 of what they want to do, what is most beneficial to them, what is most fair to them. And so that's all this is. We're something that I don't like to be, which is neutral. We're being very neutral on this because Bump has this idea as an idea that his time has come.
Yeah.
The fighting, the infighting, I'm the king, I'm the chief, my group is the one, your group is junk, mine is it's just not getting anywhere. So we need to sit down together and just put all our programs on the table in front of people, discuss, debate, scrap if you like, analyze, vision, make it better, create something, restore the kingdom. And if the people in the end say, hey, we like that, then that's self-determination. Yeah. That's humanistic decision-making. That's fair.
That sounds like true democracy.
True democracy. And I think most Hawaiians want that kind of democratic, free, fair process. That's all we're pushing is a process to do that. That's all.
Well, I will say this, that as a matter of fact, what you're saying is true in terms of the tension and the conflict that people outside of the movement see they see it so often, it's kind of like, I don't even want to go there.
Right.
I mean, it's a very negative thing. And I'm talking about my kids in particular, you know, where they, Mom, I don't even want to go there. You guys can't even talk to yourself.
That's
What do you
right.
have to offer to me?
That's right.
And so it's kind of, if you say that it's a good process, what I'm hearing is it's a safe process. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, OHA has been pushing pretty much the same kind of
One
dialogue.
option. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're saying, oh, it's open and it's free, but nobody trusts them because everybody knows that it's, matter of fact, it's not. I mean, it's pretty much going in that direction and we want to open it up all the way. So this one's different. This one is actually saying it doesn't matter what position you have, just come.
Yeah.
Just get to the table and let's have a discussion on it.
Yeah, convince your own people about what you think is best. This is your chance to do
Sell
that.
your program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
instead of fighting among each other and saying, I am
That's
the
where
best.
you do it, man.
Yeah.
In the convention. Do it in the convention. We're getting caught before we hit the table. We're getting caught going after each other, and I'm tired of that already. You know, I want to enjoy my grandchildren and go back down the beach and do all those good stuff like that again.
The political process is very wearing.
Yeah.
It takes a toll.
Well, the direction that Hawaii has taken, is taking, the path that Hawaii is on right now, we're going to look like Hong Kong in another 40 years. Overcrowded, packed, high prices. I don't know where the Hawaiians are going to be living in another 50 years. I can't afford a home now. In fact, if I wasn't living in the nation of Hawaii, I'd be on the beach where I came from 15 years ago. I have a college degree from a good school in the mainland. I'm a veteran. I can't afford it. I can't. And so this direction, this stress that's on all of us and mostly on Hawaiians needs to be alleviated. And the only way we can do that is with unity, because the people united can never be defeated.
Yep.
The laws is on our side. That's clear.
And that's relatively new. That is to
Yeah,
say,
yeah, that's new.
the whole thing is
Exactly.
shifted,
right.
and it's kind of like, okay, we're all good now. Let's meet.
Oh, that's exactly right. I mean, it's new. I mean, that was a shock to me. I was reading, you know, when I started reading the injunction, I went, holy smokes, wait a minute. Wait, we thought of this, you know, we thought of this too. But we've been saying that. Yeah, we've been saying this for years. And I'm like,
And now they're saying it too.
yeah, now they're agreeing, you know, it's like, you know, like Steve said, that its time has come. I had one kupuna, I was working on him today, and he told me, you know, oh, Auntie Wynn, she got on golf cart from the next door neighbor and she's going in the neighborhood and getting signals, he said that I had a couple of families that signed up right away. It was Hokoana and another family, the household. And he told me, oh, but I went to this other family and they said, oh, you know what, we didn't sign papers, went to Washington already. And he go, oh, you know, so I kind of say, you know what, Uncle, don't get discouraged. Even though they feel that way now, when this thing starts to roll and snowball and everybody going to see this as a viable way to go, the doors can never be closed on them. And anybody that doesn't participate right away. This is something, we cannot take away that right from you. What we're saying about people making decisions about what kind of government we should have and all that, we cannot be the same way. And so if you know, if you have one of these sheets and getting people signed up and you come across people that, you know, just don't want to hear it or see it, that's okay. Just because we cannot take away that right. So they're always going to be, the door going to be open all the time. And it should be that way. You know, our people got to feel comfortable because we want your educated decision, not your vote because you know me. You know, just
We
because.
go on T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
But
imagine
this-
people must also be contacting you once they read that and sign on about ways to help.
Yeah.
That always happens. You know, people just like right away they want to help.
Yeah. Well, we need all the help. We need organizers that, you know, this, I don't think that it's a waste of time. I think, you know, I was heading down a path of going after lands, occupation and stuff like that. And when I started to read all the stuff, and I go, you know what, we got to do something else, because what I don't want to do, what we shouldn't look at is making it a real threatening and intimidating for the non-Hawaiians that have no idea what's going on. And for non-Hawaiians, this is something that you can get involved too. I have people signing up in Maui that's non-Hawaiian. They're all Japanese and all Pake families. And they want to know. They got grandchildren that have Hawaiian blood. And so, and these are very conservative Japanese and Pakes, and they're like, hey, that's all we have to do is sign. Yeah, that's all we have to do. But just keep in mind that, you know, as we go along, that the islands going to apportion their own islands. They're going to get their own candidates from their own districts, and they're going to elect their own representatives from those areas. And that's it. It's simple. It's simply done. So what we're trying to do, Lynette, me and Steve, is we're going to be traveling through the islands to pass the same message on. And whatever islands we go, we have some petitions that we're going to drop off. If you're going to take petitions, we're going to have to just, you know, if say from 1 to 5, Steve Tayama is going to take 1 to 5, then we just like keep track of where all the documents stay. Because again, this is historic, and you know, once we get them all put together and stuff, I tell you, every one of us is going to have to hold on to this guy, because I think we're going to finally reach where we need to be. And so I really learning how to be more, I guess, more humble about what we got to do, rather than go on the forefront and prove why we're right and tie up the courts and all that stuff. You know what, I'm not into that now, because that can be real damaging. We're already getting damaged in Hawaii. It's like I said, the economy is shot, the cost of living, inflation, and all we want to do is do something that's long overdue through a free, fair, and impartial process. You know, there was another political process, just offhand, as I was thinking about them now, which was in 1945, and believe it or not, at that time too, Hawaii went through a political process. It was called the decolonization process. And when we were commissioners in 1993, the Sovereignty Advisory Commission, Poka brought up that document, decolonization, and you know, I never know had such a thing, and how Hawaii was involved, and eventually through that political process, the decolonization process, we became a state. Another violation, of course, of our political rights and stuff like that. But when I think about processes now, you know, it flashes on, oh yeah, there was another process. What happened? Well, the Constitution of the state of Hawaii came out of it, you know. So it's good to just have some of these things that we can refer back to that's happened. And, you know, 2008, now the court is saying, well, this is really what's going on.
And it's not impossible. I think that's what you're saying. Processes have happened before, out of which came something, and something really major could come out of this gathering, right?
Yeah, really.
This process.
Well, people can learn about those processes during this conference. This is about education. Many people don't understand why we keep saying that America is illegal here. Statehood is illegal. The annexation was illegal. The overthrow was illegal. Those were all processes that went through. One illegality to another, to another, to another. Why were this? So people don't know. So they think we're just talking about, you know, we don't know what we're talking about. Well, he and I wouldn't have been wasting a better part of our lives fighting this way if we didn't think we had some legal, moral, cultural facts behind us. So it's an opportunity for all people to come and sit down and talk about what those issues are. Those issues are. A lot of people that I've talked to are telling me already, no man, you're wrong, it has to be this way. You know, I'll say it's a lot of guys that are for the restoration of the kingdom. They're saying it has to be this way. And it doesn't have to be that way. It has to be the way the people want it
That's
to be.
right. The will of the people.
Because without that unity, how can the world, let alone your own people, recognize yourselves? In other words, if you're a member of one group and you think it has to be your way, but the majority of your own people don't recognize you, then how can the world recognize you?
Just well, quick
Okay.
question. If people wanted you to come and talk to their families or to them, are you guys available?
Yeah, we're available.
Give them your phone number one more time and your website.
Okay. 259-6309. You can reach me at my office, or Uncle Steve at 259-0095. And also check the website, bumpykanahele.com. You can pull off these documents, of course, except the petition.
I think
So-
people just like to have a person in front of them, so if they have a question, they can ask.
Yeah, no problem. And even if you want to ask the question over the phone, that's not a problem either.
So that's good. Let me thank you both for being here tonight. I
right
think
on.
Thank you.
your information was great and it's flowing really nicely. And thank you guys for joining us too. This is Lynette Cruz for Issues That Matter. Bumpy Kanahele as my guest, and also Steve Tayama. Aloha.
Aloha.